New Orleans, a city of mystery, a city that 1 million people proudly call home, at least the ones above ground, because New Orleans is also home to many beings that can't find their way back. Watch as our group of paranormal investigators attempt to discover these lost souls. Join us as we explore New Orleans, the most haunted city in America.
Hello, I'm Sidney Smith, owner of Haunted History Tours, and welcome to Haunted New Orleans. Here, you see a typical bed and breakfast, and by typical, I mean quaint, charming, and peaceful. It's where trendy tourists prefer to stay, because a bed and breakfast offers a more personal service, and they can, and do, provide a more romantic setting. But in some cases, a bed and breakfast can provide other things as well, including the natural habitat for a haunting, as you'll see in this, the first of a two-part episode on the haunted bed and breakfast inns of New Orleans.
My name is Glenn Miller. I co-own the HH Whitney House Bed and Breakfast on Esplanade in New Orleans, Louisiana, along with my partner Randall Cezanne. When we first started operating the bed and breakfast, we would tell our guests, little ghost stories, things that we had encountered, things that had moved. When we first moved into the house, we were hanging portraits, kind of decorating the house, and we would come down in the morning or come home from work sometimes, and there was a portrait that had been moved, it had taken off the wall and placed along the baseboard. And I would turn to Randy and ask him if he had taken it down, and he would say, "No, I thought you had taken it down." So right from the very start, we just felt that there was a presence here.
One thing happened to me when I was here alone with a furniture repairman. Well, where the grandfather clock is standing now, there was a wall clock, a wooden wall clock, and under that was a big porcelain bowl full of potpourri on a table. Next thing you know, the clock falls off of the wall and hits the big porcelain bowl and knocks a big piece of it off the side. And there was no noise outside on the street. There was no big bus or a large truck passing on Esplanade. It just kind of happened.
We've had people report, hearing things late at night. We've heard, people talking about doors. They hear doors opening and closing.
One day, Glenn or someone asked about our spirit, and they said, "What's the name?" And just Emily popped in my head, so I said Emily, and it was that easy. But since then, we found that, of course, there have been numerous Emilys on the property or live in the property. And in fact, the Emily that was listed on the ownership was Amelia, but we didn't find out later until some German guests told us that Amelia is the German name for Emily.
We've had some calls from a few bed and breakfasts about alleged hauntings. Okay. One is in the Marigny, one is on Rampart Street, okay, and one is on Esplanade. They're all kind of around each other. We're going to send somebody in there. Okay. Who do you want to send?
Well, Brent and Shay, I would definitely hold up until the Marigny. I'd like to see John and Andrew in a location.
Okay, who do you want to send to the house on Esplanade?
Let's see. How about Jonathan and Adam?
Jonathan and Adam.
Yeah, I think
Jonathan and Adam.
That would be good.
All right.
My name is Adam Scheck-Snyder. I am a tour guide for the Haunted History Tours. I've been touring ghost houses for over 10 years. And I'll admit, when I first started giving these tours, wasn't really a believer. I was a history major, I was an actor, seemed like a cool job. But spending enough time here in this very old city, in these very haunted places, it is impossible not to witness something, to not see these things that don't really have any explanation. And the more time I spend here, the more amazing stories I hear. And I'm hoping that we're gonna get a few more tonight. This is the Whitney House right behind me. It's a very old bed and breakfast, and I'm told that it is haunted. We're gonna spend the night here and find out what we see.
My name is Jonathan Weiss. I am also a Haunted History tour guide. I am one of the people who's been fortunate enough to walk around the streets of the city of New Orleans and do what we do. Explain the things, the history, the legends of our city to people who are interested in hearing them. This place does have the reputation of being haunted, the Whitney House. This place is certainly of an age and an area where there could certainly be historical activities that would encourage a haunting. But immediately looking around the area, one of the things I'm most concerned about is that we are surrounded by iron and there are also electrical lines around us. Electromagnetic activity, oftentimes, it seems from what I've read, and researched spurs people to see things they think might be a haunting, when in actual fact it's just simply a natural phenomenon easily explained. I'm looking for something that's going to make me absolutely sure this place is, without a doubt, as it alleges to be, haunted.
You're watching Haunted New Orleans.
Our bride's room right here. This we tend to have a lot of activity here, a lot of reports of things going on. Television coming on in the middle of the night for no unexplained reason.
That is a common one. I mean, I hate to sound cliche, but yeah, if you're looking for a creepy room, you got your porcelain dolls. You got the. How long has this been here?
Fantastic. This is going to be absolutely one of the cool things because, of course, you know, allegedly spirits have an attachment not only to areas but also to specific things. I've also heard rumors and reports that when areas are changed, it makes spirits particularly concerned or activates them somehow. I wonder if there's any kind of resonance to the door. I wonder if that's going to have any kind of interesting experiences for me tonight. Interesting to find out.
Well, it'll be very interesting to find out. Yes.
That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. Things that I cannot explain.
Yeah. What other kinds of things have you had people experience in here?
Well, actually, when we had first moved into the house, and we were actually staying in the bedroom just off here, which has a pocket door connecting. And I was watching a movie one night, and Randy had gone to bed, and I heard my cat at the time was living here with us, and we just started making some very strange sounds that I'd never heard from her before. I heard her do it one last time, and then I heard her scurry off and run into the next room. And she actually jumped right into my lap and just urinated all over me.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, that's a bit strong.
That's a bit strong. Something definitely scared the living daylights out of her.
That's the thing. The dogs and cats, they tend to be the first ones to really catch on to these things. That or small children. I mean, in my opinion, that's the best reason to have kids. They tend to notice these things before anybody else. But that's definitely creepy.
We've had chess pieces that have moved. We've actually seen a candlestick fly across the room downstairs in the parlor.
Well, that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
All by itself.
All by itself.
Well, tell me more about this woman. Who is she?
We've learned that her name was Amelia Schott. She and two of her brothers, the three of them never married. They actually moved to the house as adults. They had lived down on Poland Avenue. Mm-hmm. And they all moved in here as adults. Since the three of them never did marry, they spent the next 40 years of their life kind of looking after one another, and this was their homestead.
It's very rare when you have a spirit that is just so comfortable in their surroundings and so clearly associates it with as being home that they just kind of stick around to maintain. There's usually something more painful involved. That
I think her mission is to spread love. I mean, that was the first thing that really struck us about this house when we first walked in, was that there was a loving feel. There was just a good energy in this
a
house.
ghost that spreads love, that's not good for TV. That's it. We're packing it up. We're going home.
Honestly, if there's a female ghost walking through this building, the reason she's still here is that she maintained this building, cared for the people inside of it, and spent a lot of her life's energy making sure it was a home. In which case, she's probably going to be an older lady. I mean, more along the lines of a grandmother or a matron. Kind of interesting to see.
Look at this thing over here. It's like that scene from Beetlejuice where you suddenly see the wedding dress inflate and Gina Davis's decrepit face just pops out of the top. I mean, if this place isn't haunted, then they're certainly doing a lot to make it appear creepy enough as it is.
If that's the case, why is the spirit here still? That's an interesting one too.
A skeptic, not skeptic, I don't know. He'll play whatever part he needs to play, provided that he gets to keep talking endlessly, on and on. He knows a lot, and he'll tell you all about it. The only person I know that could take a 2-hour tour and come back 5 hours later.
Maybe it's just because she loves the idea of people coming to stay in a house she loved. New people. She wants to be hospitable. After all, it is New Orleans, and everybody knows how hospitable we are. Fair enough?
All right, cool. Just keep him over there, and I will stay in here with the dress. Unless he wants to wear the dress. Always didn't get his hair cut and the sequins. So, but in all honesty, what do you think? Nice place, right?
It's fantastic. Honestly, this is really one of the most beautiful buildings I've seen. It's beautifully maintained, and one of the things I commented on when I was talking earlier is how perfectly preserved even the new touches are. Fairly old, as in 8-9 decades old, and they're beautifully preserved. Certainly, Glenn's done a great job keeping.
The waxed flowers above my bed have that nice old touch. They're absolutely magnificent as well. But
he told me earlier. Actually, the wax came from when this place at one time was used as a funeral home. They had some of the makeup wax left over, and they decided to make some.
That's creepy.
Yes. It is. Well, here we are. One of the things that's creeping me out, quite honestly, and it's fascinating. In the corner of my room upstairs, there is a Springfield model naval musket from 1863. 1862.
And this is
when
one
we
of
got
the
occupied.
few people in this parish that actually knows how to load and fire one of those things.
Sadly, it's true.
Catch him out on the porch later.
Stay tuned for more haunted New Orleans.
My name is Kalila Smith. I've been a paranormal investigator for 15 years, and what I expect to do at the Whitney House is to go through a paranormal investigation with Jonathan and Adam and the owner, and to see if we can document any of the activity that's happening there. We're listening to it and watching it completely drain. Whatever it is pulling the energy right out of the battery. Wow, it is pulling, just literally stressing the battery out. Look at that. The reason we use the gauge meter is because it measures the electromagnetic field, which fluctuates when there's spirit activity. Everything is energy, whether it's spirit in body or out of body. So when there's spirits active in a room, the energy levels are going to move up or down, usually up, depending on what kind of spirits we have present. The temperature is pretty consistent over here.
I'm just walking along the hallway and this thing starts buzzing. I'm not even pressing the button.
I see that, yeah, because you have to put your thumb on that to even make it work.
Right.
So we're getting an energetic reading even though no one's touching the button, the thing's going on by itself. Once again, this is something, I've been doing this for 15 years. I've never seen a meter do this. It's pretty wild.
Now, I do not understand this, and I cannot quite figure this out a little bit at all. I mean, look at this. Look at this. I'm reading the same thing. Same area. Did not move it. Why is it going crazy? Electric. That's what it is.
There you go.
Oh, wait, whoa. What about a fault in the unit itself? Ah.
What I find more interesting was how this just spiked so suddenly and then disappeared. And basically
Now, wait a minute.
what we're looking for with this is that we know that when an entity is in a certain place, it will tend to,
we guess.
listen, if, hypothetically, it will tend to extract the energy from a certain place, causing a temporary cold pocket, much like we just had over here.
Of a battery.
While taking digital photos in the next room, crew member Brian Jones discovers something unusual.
That's it. What happened?
Batteries just died. Fairly new. I mean, I think I've only used this camera. This is like the second time I've used it on this set of batteries.
I just finished explaining to Jonathan about batteries draining in some of the equipment, and this was commonly going on inside the Whitney House. And just right next door in one of the rooms, a crew member, Brian, was taking still shots, and all of the batteries drained out of his camera.
And that's it. Battery exhausted.
Very interesting that that happened simultaneously.
I don't know. Copper top. Should have lasted longer than that.
It's a tough one. But the draining thing is pretty cool, I have to say. The draining of this all of a sudden was really neat. The drop of temperature of 6 degrees variation. It shouldn't happen. It's climate controlled. The variation should be no more than probably 2 degrees, tops 4, but a sudden 6-degree drop, that's interesting. So a temperature change and the draining of a battery, that's why we're here to investigate, correct?
Right, and the biggest thing is how do we explain how did it go on with, because it goes on when you press the button.
Yeah, and only when you press the button.
And only when except when he did it out there, and it went on
As I approached the door to your room, it went crazy. And she's following me behind.
And I've never
and
seen
I'm
a
like,
meter do that.
Kalila, look at this. I'm not even pressing the button and this thing is going crazy.
That's pretty cool. What I find interesting about that is that it was you. You know, I've had conversations about this place, and one of the things that I suggested as a possibility is that if there's a spirit here, a female spirit, and she feels protective of the building, that's why she's not left, even though the building's not any harm. She just loves the building, wants, you know, she's a hostess. She's from allegedly mid-19th century New Orleans. Now, that certainly makes sense. But if she's picked you as the caretaker of the building, she may be following you. She may be around you to make sure everything's smooth with you, everything's okay, you don't need any help, or, you know, I mean, that really could be it. I don't know. I'm not trying to suggest that's what it is, but it's an interesting thought.
Well, we were looking at the footage of the still photography, of which we didn't really find anything on the still photography, but while we had the camera on the bed and we're looking at it, the ceiling fan right above the bed started going at a faster speed. I didn't hear any click. The only people in the room are myself and you, David. Nobody pulled the chain, and we didn't even actually hear any clicks of any sort. It just suddenly started kicking up speed, and it's very obvious to notice because of all the lace drapery and just the building. Everything just has started to move now. The wedding dress has started to move. The curtains have started to move. It was very strange. I don't believe I've seen that before.
It was interesting the way the fan started kicking on and going faster while he was taking his photographs and the batteries would die, and suddenly the fan, in response to his noticing the camera, started kicking on faster and faster. And you, David, of course, were in the room when it happened and witnessed this.
Stay tuned for more Haunted New Orleans.
Great place to stay, very peaceful, made more so by the spirit that does inhabit here. An unusually peaceful spirit, an unusually domestic spirit who tends to cater to the needs of those around her.
We had some interesting experiences, particularly with the laser thermometer and the Gauss meter. The strangeness with the Gauss meter, especially even unplugged, on reflection, I might be able to explain that simply because when I first came here, I noted that there were a large amount of power lines nearby. And seeing from the outside of the house, the area that the Gauss meter was going crazy is an area where there seemed to be a fair amount of power lines.
But I will say it was a very interesting experience. Right when I woke up, there was this moment where the whole room seemed to come alive. All the curtains and all the little adornments around my very large ornate bed all seemed to rustle at the same time, like the room was inhaling, almost as if, I hate to sound cliche, someone was passing through.
On the other hand, I think probably one of the most interesting things happened off camera when a child of one of the crew members apparently saw somebody standing in the area where the Gauss meter was going crazy. Said he looked like an angry man in a black suit.
Now, I know her, and I know she's a very credible source, but at the other hand, did anybody else notice the dark suit that was hanging in Jonathan's room when we all checked in?
Is this enough to prove that the Whitney is haunted? No, not at all. A lot of interesting things, very cool place, interesting feel to it. But can I say without a doubt this place is haunted? No. No, I can't.
One of the neater things that I found while staying here was when Glenn was showing us pictures. He was showing us pictures of the two brothers, the two bachelors that lived here well into their old age. And looking at these pictures, it was fascinating to see how closely Glenn and Randy resemble the two brothers. It was almost as if Amelia maybe mistakenly recognized them and adopted them as her own to keep the legacy going.
I think the spirit of anyone who has had such a love for something, a house especially, yes, I think that spirit lingers there.
I do catch a shadow every now and then. I can't say that I've actually ever seen her presence, but there are times when I'm at the top of the stairs or, you know, just kind of crossing across a room, and I feel like I see a shadow, and then I look and there is nothing there.
Interestingly enough, these things, these unexplained events, always seem to happen to the skeptic or the innocent bystander like our crew member. What do you think? Tune in next time as we explore another side of haunted New Orleans.